Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Stormworks. It's Surviving the Arctic and we're on episode 14. I have managed to get the big bird flying. I developed the helicopter a little bit more off-screen and it actually does fly. Now it is a bit of a flying gas can at the moment. I have a whole lot of fuel tanks over here. I have 8 on one side, 8 on the other side and then 2 over here. So we're flying around with a massive amount of fuel. And I hope that the helicopter can still actually make sure that it both gets off the ground and it takes a hell of a long time to fly. Now, just to illustrate that it actually does work, let's get underway. I'm not actually going to go on the mission. I just wanted to give you guys a bit of a proof of concept so that this thing does work. And then I'll show you how I have managed to fix the yaw problem. Because, of course, this thing being a twin rotor, does not have a rear rotor, a tail rotor. And with that, it will not actually be... Don't take off too fast. It won't actually be able to use its own counter rotation. Now, as you can see, it does fly. The fact that we apparently do not have any sides is not a problem for this helicopter. And it has a lot of lifting power with those 2 rotors. Now I can turn right, I can turn left, I can roll the helicopter sideways if I so need to. This thing has what it needs to get the job done. Save the aesthetics, for that matter. That's something I'm going to be working on right now. Let's just casually bring this thing to the ground, lacking a few rotor blades on the back, and there we go. Now, for the tail rotor, or the rear rotor, normally, you have 3 sections that you set up. Roll, collective, and pitch. This one is set up to the collective, as you would expect it. This one is, however, set up to something else. The way that the roll now works is that it's connected to the yaw. I found it quite hard to wrap my brain around this, so I'll try to explain it as best I can. What I want to do is if I want to pitch, or sorry, if I want to yaw the helicopter, so I want to turn it left or right, this rotor blade does not in fact yaw, it rolls the helicopter off to the side, but in an inverted way. So what it does is if I press A to turn the helicopter left, it's going to roll the rear of the helicopter to the right, if I'm explaining this correctly. And that way, this thing actually turns. Over here, it's the center setup, collective, pitch, roll. All of these things work as intended. So that's basically how this thing actually moves. Now I'm gonna give this thing more blades. Maximum blade count. I don't believe that it actually does a whole lot for making sure that you get lift, but it just looks a little better. Okay, so now we can actually get to work on finishing up the helicopter design. As for the cockpit, what you guys have missed is that I set up a few more windows. I even have windows down the bottom. So now I can start to work on finishing this thing up. Putting some sort of landing gear on it, because at the moment it doesn't have any. And getting to work on lights, dials, and the such. Let's go for a couple more windows up here. I still don't have any doors available, I think. No, nothing. So it's going to be a walk-in helicopter. I think that I will need a ladder for that, though. Otherwise, I probably cannot even make it into the helicopter. Now, I'm, for the moment, okay with the whole flying gas can concept. Later on, I want to have a far more elegant solution for this to make sure that it actually looks pretty. And to also have a couple of seats in there, so the helicopter can and definitely will go on missions. Aside from that, I could have a cargo compartment in the rear. But again, at the moment, I don't really have the parts that I would need for that. Because ideally, I would have a door that I could open and close. And although I haven't actually seen any missions in the Arctic which say, hey, you need to transport this and this for us using a helicopter, like you have the resupply missions for the lighthouse, It's still something that could at some later date pop up. So it is something that I would ideally have this helicopter be able to do. Now let's fix the rear. Make sure that looks all right. There. The flying box. Okay, so what I'm going to need for this is a hell of a lot of calculations. We got 8 fuel tanks on one side, 8 on the other, and 2 on the, well, the front section, I suppose you could call it. To be fair, I don't really need these. So now I need to add up 16 fuel tanks. Fortunately, I believe I have a couple of... Yeah, I have the X8 calculations. These are microcontrollers that just add up 8 fuel tanks and give me one reading for all of them. So hook these things together and send them up to one dial. Same thing here. And alternatively, I could even sum up the grand total of fuel for everything. Because it's not like one section is set up to one side for one engine and the other set up to the other side. No, these things are shared. Because the fuel connectors line up here, then go down, meet through the bottom of the helicopter, come back up here. You can see this thing over here. And that's where the pump or the fuel gets pumped towards the front of the helo. I'm going to take a fuel X2 sum up. And again, I know it looks like shit at the moment. But whatever. It just needs to be able to fly. Let's go for a fuel indicator. Now this is going to be a total of 8 fuel tanks. Just pulling up my calculator here. 8 times 187.5 is 1500 units of fuel. Still not really sure if it's liters or galleons or whatever. 1500 points of fuel. Already got my speed indicator set up. I don't know if I have an altimeter. Yeah, I don't. What I do have is a linear speed sensor. And I want to have that thing set up close to the other one, which I'm sort of hiding beneath the radiators. This is the top section of the helo. I want this to indicate my rate of climb. So this is going to be a vertical speed sensor mode. That means that this thing can go as a climb rate meter. It can probably go from minus, I don't know, minus 25 to 25, I think. And then we have this one, which currently does not do anything yet. What do I want for that? What do I want for that? I do need 2 more dials before I forget. Because that's going to tell me what the RPS of the engines is. So this thing is going to the rear engine. And this thing is going to the front engine. RPS rear. RPS front. And yes, I know some people don't like the RPS, but I'm very much used to it. I don't really feel the need to run these things through another system, which is then going to tell me, hey, this is RPS to RPM. I really don't care about that. Now let's check if I can see those dials if I'm sitting in the helo. I can, but it's not ideal. Oh well, it works. Now, I don't like the way that this whole thing is set up, so we're going to just make this thing a little prettier. And there's a very good chance that eventually I will make room for all sorts of additional instruments up here. But for now, I'm just going to try and make it a little more cleaned up. Because as it stands, it's... nah. Okay, that's a little better. I can have another one over here. Or I can have another instrument panel up overhead. We'll see. I'm going to go for one toggle. And that's going to sit between these two dials. This is going to turn the lights on or off. So this thing gets hooked into all the display lights. Including these two. And the lights which are to be mounted on the helicopter. And I'm just talking about, let's say, navigational lights. I'm not talking about a searchlight yet. And again, I know that at the moment the helicopter does not have any windows off on the side. I don't need them because there's no passengers in there yet. When I get to the stage where I want to have passengers, then I'm going to make sure that this thing has a bit more of an elegant cargo compartment. Maybe even with a bed in there, so I can park the helo between missions and make sure that I can just sleep while I'm waiting for another mission to pop up. Let's see, we're going to need a heater as well. I can fit that in here. And another toggle. So this is the heater. This thing toggles the heater on or off. Alright, now for the landing gear. I do have a lot of wheels. I'm thinking of actually using a couple of those wheels and potentially giving them a small electric engine so I can roll into and out of the hangar. Because right now I'm going to rely on my propulsion, which works, but I have found that the helicopter sometimes takes off a little bit too fast, and that makes it quite hard to control how it's going to work and whether it clips the top side of the cockpit, yes or no. Which is not really something that I'm too eager to have happen. Because it's a bad way to leave the hangar and immediately start losing rotor blades. So I can have a couple of coasters on the front. And that's a bit much. I need very small wheels. It doesn't have to be anything too big. Is that what you call small? Jesus. Those are really big, dude. Okay. So those are small wheels. Sure. Let's go with a pipe. A straight pipe at that. And a electric motor. Let's see, this one is moving forward. That one's moving forward. Excellent. I just want to make sure that these things are a little bit more, kind of concealed. Angled pipe. Let's see, how can we clear this thing up nicely? Similar thing in the back. There. Perfect. It's not stellar, but it works. Now, these motors, I'm going to have to add those to a control system. I'm going to go for... I'm thinking W and S. W and S. But I will add them to a switch or a circuit breaker if I have any. Yeah, I do. Reason for that is because electric motors can and usually do take up a lot of power. And I want to make sure that I don't run these the whole time. So this is going to be for the wheels. And the way that I'm going to do that is that this thing goes to those electric motors and gets its power from, I have a battery up there. And this whole system is already tied together, so that works perfectly well. Now, tie these things together, ignoring that circuit breaker. These things are also tied together. The lights will have to be tied together. There. Now, I need one more very important thing, which should be somewhere below the center of gravity, and that's the winch. Because this whole mission started out with me needing to lift a ship. Now, this is a really, really heavy winch at 100 mass. I am instead going to go with 2 mediums. And I'm going to tie those things together. At least that's the plan. Let's see, they're going to fall down a bit, sort of. That's the annoying part. They're going to come down a little bit. No. I think I might just have to attach them directly to the helicopter like that. But if I do it like that, then I'll need to raise the landing gear a little bit more. Because I don't really have room in the helicopter to elevate that whole section. Unfortunately. Let's see, center of mass is over there. Merge these things together so they actually form one section that I can lower and raise. And then I want a couple of magholes on that. There. Now I think this is going to be too low. Is that off the ground? No, it's on the ground. Okay, pretty easy solution. Raise the landing gear and make sure that there's enough room there. Another part of the ladder. And I think it was a coaster wheel. Same thing is going to have to happen here. Which is unfortunate because it's going to take me a bit more work to get this fixed. I need a straight pipe going down. Then an angled pipe. And then the wheel. No, I need more. Because we're still sitting on the ground with that thing. Pipe. Angled. Wheel. Small wheel. Add. Done. I know that this doesn't look very pretty. What I want to go for eventually is a way that I can retract my landing gear. But that's probably going to be a bit off in future episodes. Okay, now it seems to be swinging freely. Let's see. Turn the wheels on. Yep, and now I can roll out of the hangar like that. Good. So that works. I will need one more thing, by the way. And that's an indicator for my batteries. Because at the moment, I don't know how much my battery power is. So let's go for a battery status indicator, microcontroller. This thing is set up as an X4. That's a bit too big. I'm going to go for an X2. So I'll delete 2 inputs. Bring this thing down. That means I can lower the length a little bit. And I can remove that one. I need a function. I need to add up 2 inputs. One here and one there. This is going to be X plus Y, because that's what I just hooked them up to. This is X, the second battery is Y. Then the calculation is going to be divide whatever comes out of that by 2 times 100. And now I have a percentage of power. So I can make sure that these things get their information from the batteries. That's one. And where's the other one? Here? Yeah, there. And then this thing can go over there. And this is the battery percentage, ranging from 0 to 100. Now, I wonder exactly how much power those wheels are going to take. Because electric motors are known to be extremely hungry. So it's probably going to take up quite a bit of power to just get out of the hangar. Why is there a microcontroller in my cockpit? I wonder. Hello, what are you? Oh, you're a battery status indicator. Sure. Okay, we got almost 100% power. Wheels up, or wheels on. Oh, it's not too bad. Takes a couple percentages. It's not too bad. So now I should be able to elevate the throttle, turn the lights on. If they had power, that'd be lovely. There's always something that you find out that you forgot. And that currently... let's see, that's the wheels, that's the heater. Yeah, this whole section does not get any power. Save it. Big bird. It's time for a small test flight to see if this thing works. Wheels on. Lights on. Move us out of the hangar. At a pretty decent speed, by the way. That's 18 kilometers per hour. Throttle up. Engines on. Power should immediately be getting regened. Wheels off. Collective up. And we are flying. Not by too much, though. Why won't you take off? Because previously I had this thing take off. There we go. Okay, fuel status. Oh, I miscalculated. We have a hell of a lot more fuel than that. Climb rate apparently is inverted. So that's something I still need to change. Battery power is restored. Look at the view that you got from this helo. Nice. Speed 100 kilometers per hour. Now this is what I was talking about earlier when I said this is how the helicopter... Whoops! I am freezing. This is how the helicopter yaws. If I press A, like I'm doing right now, you can see that the rear of the helicopter starts to roll to the right. And that way, I can turn this thing. That's the trick. Okay. I think we're about ready for the mission. There is still something that I need to set up, and that is the winch, as well as all the mag holes, to make sure that I can actually lift my cargo, whatever that happens to be. But aside from that, I think we're ready. Let's bring her back down. Rotate. Yaw to the left a little bit. Land it. Turn the throttle down. Turn the wheels on. This thing won't steer though. So I can roll forward and roll back. But yaw is not an option. And there we are. Excellent. Big Bird is just about ready for the mission. Now there was one thing that I noticed, and that's that this meter is going the wrong way. This dial over here. That's a little annoying, because it's going to give me false information about whether I'm going up or down. So I need to make sure that this thing's actually set up properly, otherwise I think that I might be going up, whereas I am instead going down. And if you get those two confused in the helicopter, you could find your ass in the water a hell of a lot faster than you might like. Okay, so that's done. Now, for easy access while flying, I want to make sure that 1 goes to the up input of the throttle and 2 goes to the down input. So this is throttle up. And this is throttle down. What else would I like? The way that I have this thing set up right now is a 3 to 2. I am gonna have the other one set as a 9 to 5. So that I can still switch between low and high fuel usage. So let's go with the toggle switch for that. And these things are gonna go to this one and that one. So this is, let's say, fuel economy mode. 9/5. What else would I need? I need a way to lower these winches. Let's speed them up first. Let's say I want these things at about 3. And now I need to connect them to the logic. Button 3 is going to be lower the winches. So this is cable down, cable down. Number 4. Cable up, cable up. Button 5. Activate all the magholes. So button 4 is raise the winches. Number 3 is lower the winches. And number 5 is the maghole. Plural, actually, magholes. Okay. I think we're just about ready for the mission. Did I really not forget anything? I got power. I got capability of raising or lowering the winches. It has absolutely 0 floatability, this helicopter. There is not a chance in hell that this thing's going to float. It is too heavy and it does not carry any floats. If I would want to make this thing float, that would be a hell of a challenge. It wouldn't be impossible to do, but it would definitely be hard to do. Because you would need a lot of floats on this thing. Maybe the better way to do that is in future installing a door and making sure that the helicopter floats that way. But that is for future use. Now, let's paint it. I'm going to go for plain filling. I'm going to make it yellow so that if it somehow gets lost, I can still find it fairly easily. Reason that I'm not using the replace all is because I don't want everything that is currently white to turn yellow. That would be a bit much. I don't need that much. Switch to the standard paint job. Otherwise the rotors won't get painted. Radiators. Plain fill this and that. Plain fill the exhausts. Although the exhausts, these are the exhausts. I'm going to make those red, and we're going to have one red line over the top of the helo. Plain fill, yellow. Gonna make these lights yellow, otherwise the game's just gonna skip over them. Another one there, here, this stuff. Bottom of the helo too, because I think that it has a potential to roll over. You never know if it's going to, but if it does and it ends up belly up, well, try to distinguish this thing from a piece of ice. That's going to be very hard to do. If it's upside down, that is. I'm gonna make this thing red, so I have a slightly better way of finding it. I guess the maggols are not feeling like getting painted. There we are. Okay, these things. And just for making them slightly more elegant, let's do it like this. There. I could even go so far as to add this, but I don't think that adds a whole lot. Well, actually it's alright. Okay, finally, these, the wheels, ladders, and I think we're done. Yep. Big Bird is done. And Big Bird is ready for its first official mission. Join me next time. We're going to be taking this thing out all the way towards the scientists, which are stranded. We're going to see if we can lift that boat right out of the water with this behemoth of a helicopter and bring those guys home safely. That's the plan. Join me next time. It's going to be an interesting mission.